October 17th, 2024, we've got a highly active and reactive full moon in Aries. This happens at 7:26 a.m. Eastern U.S. time. Calculate that for your own time zone. This is not an eclipse, however, it is a super moon, which is always a little more intense, and the ruler of this full moon, Mars, is currently in Cancer and will be squaring the moon axis. So Mars will be at 22 Cancer. The lunar axis is at 24 degrees of Aries for the moon, 24 degrees of Libra for the sun. But remember, Mars often acts early, so we can count that as an exact T-square. And then further into Capricorn, we've got Pluto at 29 degrees Capricorn, and remember the US natal Pluto is still having that Pluto return, 27 degrees of Capricorn. So lots of competing energies, lots of tension here with the third cardinal grand cross in a row for a lunar event. Things are heating up. This is kind of, the finale, the grand finale with all the fireworks and all of the crisis points that are coming in a movie. That's kind of the energies that we're feeling. It is intensified because Eris, the sister of Aries or Mars, Eris is at 24 degrees of Aries at the time of this full moon. That's a slow-moving dwarf planet. She's been hovering around that point for quite some time, but anytime that you have one of these, precise events like a full moon or a new moon where it really triggers something that's in a longer transit, it tends to pop off. And so Eris is the goddess of strife, the goddess of discord. In Greek mythology, she was the one who threw the golden apple and triggered the entire Trojan War. So she stirs the pot. And this is kind of, if you've heard the expression FAFO or FAFO, F around and find out, this is kind of the background energy of this full moon in Aries. So just kind of a heads up. People's tempers are on edge, lots of stress going around. We've been in this unfortunate culture where so many people are, just attacking each other in social media, even in life, like short tempers. This is not a time to do that. It's going to be very tempting, but this is more than most times a good time to kind of pull back and temper the response. Try to tone down some of the vitriol because a lot of people are going to be just right on the edge. So the full moon also conjuncts Chiron in Aries, 21 degrees Aries. So we get this wound, but also pain, but also the potential for healing, the potential to become the wounded healer. And so with those Eris and Chiron energies in the mix, you just want to keep in mind that people may be hurting. People may be more challenged than usual. We don't always know what's going on with other people, but with that Aries energy, there's an impatience there. There's kind of a hair trigger reaction. Aries can be lots of fun and adventurous and really, leading the way to something new. That's the positive side of Aries. But it's also the sign of war. And again, with the ruler of this full moon, Mars, in Cancer, very emotional, squaring this lunar axis, you have the potential for more volatility. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind. We do have a sextile from Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter is right around 21 degrees Gemini. I'm recording this on the 9th, which is when Jupiter is actually stationing retrograde at that point, which is also the US natal Mars. So we're getting a lot of Mars energy coming and going all over the place here. Jupiter in general is a nicer kind of benefic influence, but will be retrograde and also in the sign of his fall, Gemini, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So Jupiter in Gemini, very associated with truth, with information coming out, lots of information. Jupiter expands whatever it touches, but it's currently expanding the US natal Mars. So again, there's that energy with Eris and Chiron. this is going to be one of those situations where if you've needed healing, if you have been on the receiving end of bullying, then you may find that suddenly you have the courage to stand up, that you have the courage to fight for what you need. One of the most common complaints that I hear from people who have a moon in Aries is that they are the ones that have to initiate conversations or support for their own healing, for their own needs. And so that's already coming up. We're seeing some of that energy in North Carolina, Eastern Tennessee, kind of this energy of, hey, I'm not going to wait. I don't have time to wait for that top-down authority, that, 29 Capricorn Pluto, to supply things. The Aries energy it moves ahead. So, look at that in your own life too. Are there areas where you have felt stuck? Are there areas where you're just not quite getting what you feel you need? The energy of this full moon encourages you to forge your own way, find a way to get what you need in order to move forward, take the action towards your own healing. And with Aries there is magic. There is this incredible energy, but think of how you want to use that energy. Because if you yourself have been bullying other people or like passive aggressive sniping or something, that energy could have a backlash at this time. And so just a heads up to try to be on the best behavior that you can be, while also acknowledging whatever you need in order to move into the next phase of life. We are in the midst of a powerful shift, and things are coming into being, coming into us in the form of resources, whether that's relationships, the Libra side of this cardinal grand cross, whether that's courage, the Aries side, whether that's emotional support or emotional energy, right? Raw energy can help us to perform magic. It can give, somebody the courage to lift a car if the car is on their pet or on their child. So there's that mama bear energy that can really come up and strengthen us. But then we've also got this heavy Plutonian energy in the final degree of Capricorn, where it's like last call for tyrants, last call for any corrupt officials of any sort to, try to hide what's going on, what's been going on. And so we're seeing kind of this cornered animal reaction as well. So all of that is in the mix. It's going to play out differently for different people. If you have anything from the last 11 degrees of the cardinal signs, so Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, you're going to feel this much more than most people. Also, if you're in the United States, you're going to feel this more than a lot of places, just because the United States chart is very tightly involved in this cardinal grand cross. The United States Mercury is at 24 degrees Cancer. Again, Mars is at 22 Cancer. The full moon and sun axis points are 24 Aries and 24 Libra. The U.S. natal Pluto, 27 degrees of Capricorn. So we're still in that. And we're also still in the U.S. Chiron return, which has been simultaneous for the first U.S. Pluto return. So the energies are intense. It would be an understatement and something false to claim otherwise, but intensity is not necessarily bad. And again, Aries reminds us to have courage. So another thing to know about this particular full moon in Aries is that Kamala Harris was born on a full moon in Aries, actually very exactly 27 degree Aries moon and a 27 degree Libra sun. So very close to the axis of this full moon. It's likely to have in the next month between this full moon in Aries and the full moon in Taurus, likely to be quite pivotal for Kamala Harris. Also noting that that 27 degrees Aries Libra of her moon and her sun is an exact square to the US natal Pluto. So we've been having a big workout with that natal Pluto return, especially since 2021, 2022, it went exact. But with Kamala Harris, that point, there's tension there always. And so pay attention to things that come up around this mid-October point, especially around October 17th. That may be a clue to how Kamala Harris may do in like a longer term scenario, just because we are getting that very precisely highlighted. So that's not a political prediction. This is just an astrological note that her chart is highly activated at the time of this full moon. So one other thing to keep in mind, and I feel like this is more of the silver lining to this intense time, and that is the Sabian symbol. So we always round up for Sabian symbols, and for this one we've got Aries 25 degrees. The possibility for man to gain experience at two levels of being. So we're talking about that kind of timeline bifurcation, right? Where, there's what's going on in the world here, but maybe you're living up here, maybe you're experiencing things on a higher level or just a different level than what's going on out there. Something important to keep in mind at this time. Dane Rudyard adds a keynote: the revelation of new potentialities. The implied message is one of faith. Man can only truly experience what he deeply believes he can experience. So this is a time where your inner belief system actually plays out in terms of what comes back to you. It sounds a little more Sagittarian than Aries, when we're talking about the philosophy of life, faith, belief. And interestingly enough, Venus enters Sagittarius later that day. So we do have this major move of Venus. We've got the sextile from Jupiter. So the two benefics are kind of active at this time. That should mitigate things, but it's a time where we are encouraged to speak our truth and to have values about truth, have values about kind of the bigger picture, the higher philosophy. That's the Venus in Sagittarius. But also, again, to really take an assessment of how are your needs being met? What do you need in order to make your next move? How do you need to position yourself so that on this long journey, which we've all been on, that you are able to kind of cross the Rubicon or get into that next phase? And for some of you, it may just be taking some time each day to make sure that you're centered, pulling yourself back in, taking the energy that's all scattered and out there and having a little more self-focus, a little more self-care focus, but also determination that you don't necessarily have to accept what is presented. If you don't like it, change it. That's what's available at this time. So I hope this is helpful, and feel free to ask Laura Bruno any questions in the comments. If they are things that are relative to lots of people, I'm happy to answer it in the comments. If it's something much more personal, then I'll try to point you in a direction, or you're welcome to have a private session. I did extend my specials. I had a mini astrology reading, a half-hour mini astrology or intuitive coaching session. I'll leave the link to my monthly specials below. I made that one just because I know that this is a time that is impacting so many people. And hopefully that offers additional support if, the general read in these videos is kind of sparking some ideas in you, but you're not quite sure how this all plays out for you. Feel free to contact me. All right, I will catch you guys next time. Peace.